What's up with it, guys? Okay, welcome back here to another video. Now I wanted to give you guys a quick little kind of walkthrough here of how I research information regarding classes and specs, because I think there's a lot of information that people can easily access and they don't know how to or where to look. And so I kind of wanted to make this quick guide. I know some of you guys might already know how to use these tools. I'm going to be going over arenamate.net and Warcraft logs. So if this doesn't pertain to you, by all means, just peace out. But I feel like there's a good amount of people that don't know how to use these tools correctly or well, and there's a lot of information that you can go ahead and find out yourself here. So let's first start with ArenaMate real quick. Now, you can see region, realm, rating, ladder, all these categories you can filter by. Generally, how I do it is I will put it at any and just leave that. And then I will usually do about 2K plus, just because you're seeing like actually a higher level of competition up there. So you're seeing what's actually working consistently at higher ratings. The ladder is kind of important to pick depending on what you're interested in playing. If you're looking for an RBG build, that could vary a lot compared to a 2v2 build, right? Because you're going to be worried about AoE damage or maybe base sitting or whatever. So it's important to make sure you pick the ladder. So for this, let's go ahead and just do 2v2 for the time being. You can select the class if you want to. Now, one thing worth noting is if I hit filter here, what it will do is it will take those parameters, basically any player above 2,000 rating in any region, any spec, any faction, any race, in 2v2s over 2K. This is the spread, if you will, right? So we can see that there's a huge amount of assassination rogues and disc priests. Not really surprising, right, given the current meta. And we can see that the rest of the ladder is split pretty evenly. It's not like anything else is really standing out that much aside from assassination rogues. The next three, as far as win percentage goes, is healers. Sorry, next four is healers. Number 6, survival hunters. What's up? Anyway, so you can kind of use this to get an idea of just how the spread is. Now, for us specifically, for the sake of this, let's go ahead and hit hunter. And we can see in 2v2 above 2K, that 58% of the hunters, 58% of those hunters are survival, 35% of them are BM, 3% of them are marks, and 2.5% they don't know. They're like bugged out because of them not loading. They might have a weird name. There's some kind of issue, right? But we can see there's 433 hunters above 2K rating. Now, we can go through here and you can basically look up, and based on the image that's popping up here, you can see what spec those people generally are playing based off the rating. Sometimes I found that this can be a little bit buggy, but for ease of discussion, let's go ahead and click Willie. Now, Willie's been a survival hunter for a long time. I've looked him up a lot in the past. You can see tons of seasons. He was duelist, gladiator, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you scroll down here, these will show you what specs they were actually playing their arena games. So for some reason, sometimes it'll show, like on this last page, it will show that he's a survival, and then we could click this, and all of these will be BM, meaning that all of his last arena games, you can see the win and losses and stuff here, will show up as BM, which means he's not actually playing a survival, right? So I'll check this. Okay, he actually was playing at survival. You then click the name and it will pull up their armory. Now, armory has been updated to where if we scroll down, you can see their talents, and you also can see their honor talents now. It's important to note, people will change the way that this is saved is based off of your log out, I believe. So it's important to note that sometimes people will be, maybe they ran heroics or mythics or rated or something after this, so their talents might be a little funky. So for that reason, I usually will go here and I'll check out 5, 6, 7, 8 people, and I'll kind of see what the top players are consistently running and then make the decision that way. But anyway, this will give you a good idea. You can see what talents and PvP traits people are running, and then you can also go in here, obviously normal armory, and you can check out their Azerite traits. This has been really helpful for me because there's not a lot of information when it comes to PvP, which traits are bad. There's like that Blood Mallet website that will rank them, and there's all these different like DPS test type things you can do. But for PvP, it's really hard to find that information out, right? So this is kind of how I've been doing it, looking up high rated. And again, you can do this for any spec or whatever. You cannot filter by spec in this, as far as I can tell. Yes, like I can't click any of that. So that's kind of unfortunate. You have to manually just kind of scroll down, and then like once you find like let's go to page 4, right? Because those are all high rated guys. Oh look, marksman hunter. Okay, so he played one game as marks, right? So it throws it off because there's only 11 marksman hunters above 2K, right? But let's see, is he marksman right now? He is. So he's running this setup. Okay, interesting. Double tap, lock and load, streamline. Okay. What's he running? Collective Will, interesting. Unerring Vision, also interesting. And Steady Aim. Okay. So anyway, it's kind of fun to go through and see certain specs, maybe the more unorthodox specs, what people are running. But that's how I do that, and I'll kind of play with these different builds that people are messing with, see what their stat priorities. You can see obviously right here in the bottom of Armory. And anyway, interesting. It's a cool tool, and it's really helpful to figure out different options as far as PvP goes. Now, over to Warcraft Logs. This is a very powerful tool when it comes to PvE content. Now, it's broken into two sections. You can ignore this up here at the top, but it's Uldir, and then down here is a Mythic Dungeon. For both of these, for sake of DPS, I always look up the DPS All-Star tabs to research information. So if you click this, you can then go, and then there's an all DPS drop down, and you can go in here and filter by class, okay? That's how I personally go up and look. You can see here on the right, it's showing their talents, their Azurite traits, how much DPS they're pulling, things like that. So for example, let's go ahead and pull up Marksman Hunters. Okay, so we scroll down here and we can see that on Talic, the top DPS Marksman Hunter is 377 eye level, pulling 659 DPS. He's got 2 Steady Aim, 1 Archive of the Tritons as far as his traits go. The item level of the trinkets is not accurate. It's very likely, for example, this one, like that could be like a 380 trinket, like a Mythic Plus, but they do not update. They like the base eye level is what will show on this. So keep that in mind. It is also important to note that the Dark Deck Fathoms or Dark Moon deck, almost everyone runs that. And that cannot scale up. So that is a 355 trinket that people are using, which is a little frustrating. But you can see everyone's build here is identical, right? So if you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do as my setup for raids as Marksman Hunter? Okay, everyone's running these talents, good to go. Okay, and ideally I need some of these traits, good to go. Easy enough, right? So you can do that with kind of any class, any spec, obviously. You can go ahead and do Outlaw Rogues if you want to do the same thing. Same thing. It all pops up, updates, all that fun stuff. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, so this is the Warcraft logs actually from my guild. So these are all the individual boss fights from one of our raid nights. So for example, if we go to Heroic Mother, now if you click on any of these people, you can kind of dissect into the information the same way this is shown. This will give you kind of a raid overview, so you can see what kind of healers, what kind of classes they're running. Maybe there's some kind of weird synergies between buffs and classes. You can kind of see that. Now, you can see I'm up here, Wooey right here. So if we go and I always like to do this, if you hit this rankings tab, this will give you an idea of how everyone is performing relative to other people. Okay, so this is helpful. Maybe if you want to go and check yourself out, if you want to see if anyone in your guilds or anyone's running logs. But you can go in here. So these will continually update. So this was done like, I want to say this was like 3 weeks ago now. So like at the time, I was like top 30 of Marksman Hunters. Now you can see here the spread out of 5,400. There's not very many Marksman Hunters, right? But this percentage over here is how you're doing in comparison to everyone else. It's your rank divided by the total. So I was in the top, as of right now, that DPS from 3 weeks ago is in the top 9% of Marksman Hunters on the Heroic Mother fight, okay? So at the time, like I said, this was at like 98 percentile or whatever. So you're like in the top 2%, whatever that is. But this will constantly change based on what it's going. It'll give you a relative DPS for your eye level. I'm not really sure how they calculate that. I'm guessing that they're just, I don't know. I don't feel like eye level is a very good determination because, for example, like what I had said about the Dark Moon deck, people are rocking a 355 eye level. It's dropping everyone's eye level down, but they're outperforming that eye level because that trinket is so good, right? Anyway, but so this is a good tool to do that. Now, if I go ahead and click me here, you can see this I don't know if this is me or other attempts. I don't know what that is exactly. But if we go ahead and click right there, you can see it pops up again, and we click my name. And you can see here over the course of the fight what my percentage was on all my DPS abilities, how many casts I had of each ability, and when I casted those. So these abilities will all share the same color. So you can see like all the red is aim shot damage, all the blue is Murder of Crows, all the green is arcane shots, the other darker blue is auto shots, and the purple is steady shots, right? So you can kind of see how that DPS fluctuates. You can see here at the end when we bloodlust that damage goes up. These low points, for example, on Mother, if you're familiar with the fight, are where we're probably rotating through the rooms, would be my guess. I don't know that, but that would make sense. So there's a lot of kind of telltale signs. You can also go up here, hit buffs, and you can track people's buffs and see what kind of stuff. Maybe someone's running a weird enchant. Maybe you want to see the uptime of some certain buff, like we can see Overwhelming Power. I had almost 38% uptime of it during that fight. Lots of things like that. So these are actually incredibly helpful tools if you can utilize these well and kind of digest the information. Now, the extent of what I just did as far as what I click through is usually about as far as I go, because once you start getting too much like into individual like 30-second windows and things like that, it gets kind of hard to go back out, like unzoom out of the fight. But I found those to be the most helpful is this buffs tab, and then if you do damage done by abilities, and it will give you this breakdown too. Those are the two that I usually will check out if I'm looking up a new spec for an alt or things like that. So anyways, I hope that helps, guys. I will catch you guys in the next video. See you next time.